What's going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets-Haber. Wednesday, always one of my favorite days. Has been my most profitable day this year. Have not been doing so hot lately. I just can't seem to get the right mix. And then when I do, I get a guy, the Lowry injury hurt. For some reason, all my perfect pairings, I played a bunch of, I played Compazzo about 40 some odd percent, which is below the field. But I also played 30% of RJ Hampton. And it just didn't play well. So RJ Hampton and Cat as a wild card was my big misses, but lots of great hits with the Morant and Ja would have. I mean, that could have been really huge if that game would have stayed reasonably close. And that was already still good. And Giannis was great, and everything else was working out. I had Harden, whatever, everything else that was obvious, and then the low-owned plays, but just can't quite get the right mix. Sheets, you had a decent night. Why don't you talk about that?
Did all right. I did. I got like 30th or something in the 254 max. It's one of the weird things. I had mostly early games, so. Going into the last game, I was like in first or second. Then I talked myself into all these different variations where I could hold on. I'm like, okay, all I need is the following 8 things to happen. I need like DeAndre Jordan to get less than 20. I needed like Landry Shamet to get less than 12. I need, you know what I mean? All these different things together all had to happen. It just didn't good. It's not so easy to get all of it working for you.
No, it's kind of frustrating because you did have like a good chance. I mean, in that game was turning into a blowout, and it could have gone where
I know
actually like ends up really doing much, and it was looking like.
I can't believe that, but Brooklyn came back to win, right?
They came back to win. I mean, Harden just went nuts at the end, and Tyler Johnson, who I ended up pivoting on too late over Shamet, although they both were fine. But Tyler Johnson was obviously better. But yeah, it was just tough. It was one of those nights. But we're onto a big, real slate tonight.
Big, huge slate. Lots of back-to-backs. Lots of nonsense. We'll see how it goes. Well, again, for you guys who are kind of trailing this, I'm probably not gonna be. I might. You never know. But I'm planning to not be here for the live thing. If I am, great. If not, it's most of what we say now is going to be usurped by stuff that Bobby goes over at 6 or somebody goes over at 6 or whatever. But we'll give you guys a good preview for what to expect today.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, look, this is one thing I want to just point out. Like, it happens to the best and the worst DFS players we got. Like, for me personally, it's not even that it's been such a horrible losing streak. It's just been a frustrating streak. It's like nothing matching, nothing working. All this late information probably throwing me off, which usually is something I do pretty well at. And we're going to have a lot of opportunities to speculate on a 10-game slate, which is a really, really not the slate you would necessarily want to do it. But we have obviously one of the biggest pieces of information in the last game, and hopefully we just find out about Kawhi before that. That's all I can say. But let's get it started. And I think the great thing is not that it's a cross-off, but I think in regards to the first game, Sheets, why don't you pull your screen up and we'll go through them. And,
yeah. Hold on, let me get
it's that. Just not – there's not a whole lot to be in love with, in my opinion. And we'll talk DraftKings, and then we'll do the FanDuel, because I think it's very different today on both sites. And the game I want to stack the most, I can very, very comfortably do and feel good about it on FanDuel. I cannot do it on DraftKings. So we'll get into that. All right, let's talk Knicks and Magic. This is definitely one of the least interesting games in the slate, and I like that it's first. I do have, I guess I'll just start it off with New York. I have a tiny bit of elf revenge interest. I know it's silly with all the guards they're playing, and he's still just barely getting there. It is a really good matchup against the guards, and again, it's not just the revenge thing. I mean, he's cheap. Overall in the slate, are you going to play a bunch of them? Probably not, but just wanted to throw him out there as a speculative play, because we've seen this happen before where, he's getting these 20 minutes and all of a sudden it turns into 30 and he puts up 35, 40 fantasy points. So other than he and Noel, who I'll have a little bit of interest in, I think you can play Derrick Rose a tiny bit in long shot, large field GPPs, and I think you can play RJ Barrett. I actually think RJ Barrett on FanDuel makes some sense. And I actually think at this price on DraftKings, he played 32 minutes in the last game, put up 36 fantasy points. It's a reasonable enough price, but overall in this slate, these are not going to be guys I want to focus on.
Do you want to deal with Orlando too, and then I'll go back to
yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, Orlando is a little bit more interesting. I'm interested in speculating on Michael Carter-Williams. I think that he's going to play more minutes tonight. I think that it could easily be over 30. They don't, they don't have a whole lot of creators. We don't know about Ennis and Fournier. That's obviously going to be big information, but we'll know that before the first game. And obviously Michael Carter-Williams is much more in play if those guys are But I don't really love everything over here except for, I mean, my favorite play is, other than Carter Williams, assuming those guys are out, is it's probably Kem Birch, which shows you my level of excitement for this game. One thing that is in Kem Birch's favor, he did play 33 minutes the last game, 27 the game before that. We've had 24 minutes or more of 3 games in a row. Usually, if he gets that kind of run, he's going to put up 20 plus fantasy points. You got upside of 30, a little over 30 probably. I don't love it. I'm just throwing him out there as a speculative play. Is there anybody I'm missing? Anybody you like in this game at all?
No, the game is pretty much a pass for me. I'm probably not gonna play Michael Carter Williams. I'm just gonna gamble on the fact that I'm gonna find something better. Let's just put it that way.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And on the Knicks side, I did make a note of something. Actually, on the Orlando side, but I'll get back to that in a second. But just on the Knicks side, again, Noel is probably going to be a decent play, but I'm just gambling on the fact that I'm going to do better. I think that the guard wing roulette is just not worth speculating on such a huge slate. You can always play Randall. Like I'm mentioning, he's always he's the one that's locked into the minutes. He's really expensive though, and likewise, I think it's going to be better 9,500 guys. If you want to know the truth. Yeah. The only thing I would say in Orlando, and I don't want to play anybody there really, is just something to keep an eye on. And when I first saw these guys were playing, I didn't know who was in or what where the game was or whatever. Just throw something in. Just throw it in the mix. I'm only saying this so that I won't forget when this happens. If and when Orlando plays in New York and Cole Anthony is not hurt, you're going to want to play Cole Anthony in Madison Square Garden. There's just all kinds of just shit I'll get into as we get closer. Back from starting when he was in 8th grade, like leading into like just banking on like one day playing in Madison Square Garden. There was like something that was canceled that was going to be at Madison Square Garden that he didn't get a chance to play. There's some crazy shit with him and with Greg Anthony too, with his dad. When Cole Anthony comes healthy and the opportunity to get a lot of minutes at Madison Square Garden, I'm going to be playing it. I'm just figured I would let you know that. This game is not in Madison Square Garden, nor is Cole Anthony even active. But I just figured if I didn't mention it, I have a better chance of forgetting it next time. So that's pretty much all I got from this game.
I like that you mentioned that, actually. I think that, it would be even better, obviously, if there were fans there. But yeah. I do think that it's still that is a little bit of a narrative that could drive something. And again, I want to mention just the thing about Elf Payton again that sort of ties into this. The difference is, like, he's not playing in front of the his old fans, obviously, and all that stuff. But this is a team that gave up on him, and I just feel like it gives a guy a little bit of an extra motivation. Maybe when he's out there, he's a little bit more aggressive, which earns him some extra minutes. And if he's playing well, of course, he can earn himself some extra minutes. It's just really, really congested in that backcourt. But I do think that Elf is still a long shot play that's worthwhile. All right, let's move over to Atlanta and Boston. You want to start it off with Atlanta?
Yeah. So part of it depends on Daniel Tice, who I like for Atlanta, actually. That's why I mentioned it. Tice, I don't know whether he's going to be in or not out. I don't think it was that big of a deal.
One.
All good? Okay.
Yep.
So it does depend on Daniel Tice because, look, Grant Williams did kind of a reasonable job on Robert Williams did a reasonable job, whatever, on Jokic. Jokic just went off, but kind of at least did a okay job out there.
I
don't know if Daniel Tice,
he was. Hey, another good call that we had. Sorry, Sheets.
But if Daniel Tice is out, I think Capella could go ballistic here. I might just do. Now again, Capella is, he's getting a lot of variance with respect to minutes and such, but I think this just would be a really, really nice spot for him. If Tice does not play, I really want to highlight Capella. If Tice does plays, I still think Capella's okay, but I would give him a significant bump if Tice were out. Other guys from Atlanta, I'm pretty disinterested in. Trae Young, again, he's another 9,500 guy, which I want to kind of find better. The majority of the interest for me is going to be on the Boston side, and I guess I'll just kind of meander over to that. So if Tyson is in fact out, then we go back to the same, discussions of we had yesterday of Tristan Thompson and Robert Williams. I don't know. I thought Robert was pretty active yesterday. I liked him. I had him actually. He did nicely for me. Maybe I'm just kind of biased, but he's
he's good. He's active.
Yeah. So Tyson, I go back to him, but the fact is that with Kemba presumably out, right, on a back-to-back, then there's the two ways you can approach it, right? Number one is you could play Peyton Pritchard as his direct backup who's going to be thrown into the mix with a lot of minutes, or you could be kind of easier and just say, okay, I'm just going to play more Jalen Brown and more Tatum. And it depends on your level of risk, depends on what else you want to do, but where the rest of your lineup goes in. But I think all three of those have value in kind of different ways. Jalen Brown and Tatum certainly are the more, higher scorers and, safer than a Pritchard. But I think all three of them are in play.
Yeah, so I agree about Capella. I think that Capella is a really interesting play. I don't care too much whether Tice plays or not. I would be not very surprised. I would be surprised mildly if all of the big men are playing for Boston today on a back-to-back with Tristan Thompson at his age. You can see, even if Tristan Thompson plays, he's not going to play many minutes. Like, I would bet it's a pretty reasonable chance that Robert Williams could get as many minutes as him in tonight's game on these back-to-backs. And not that they will, but it is a matchup where you could end up seeing them together. They didn't do it last time. Okay. Anyway, so he and Collins I have interest in. I have mostly on Capella's side. And then I have a mild interest in Cam Reddish as a tournament dart. No one ever plays Cam Reddish, and he's, maybe there's a good reason why to some people, but the truth is that, his last two games, he's 4,500. He put up 25 and 30 his last two. He's playing the minutes. Overall, Atlanta, I just want to say, early in the season, I think maybe a week into the season or so, I apologize to the Atlanta front office, and I apologize to Trae Young because they looked good to me. I want to take back that apology.
Apology rescinded.
Apology rescinded completely. Trae Young, this is one of the worst. I just think it's like the worst way to build a basketball team. You have a guy who I don't even think is a legitimate all-star on a real team. We're not even close, really. And you built a team around him. And look what happens when a guy like DeAndre Hunter leaves. They can't win a game without DeAndre Hunter. They are terrible. They've been one of the worst teams in the NBA since Hunter's been hurt. And, I'm not saying worry about a blowout. I'm just pointing out that this is just an ugly basketball team, the way that they're configured. Like, they have a lot of good players. They just don't know how or what to do with them. I don't like anybody. I don't like Trae Young tonight at this price. I don't like any of the other guys, but I do love the Boston guys. It's going to be really hard not to want to play at least one, if not both of them, or at least maybe split them up. The thing that worries me a little bit, I mentioned I was worried about the Jalen Brown assist. He got 5 assists last night, which was, nice to see. What's weird is that, he's just not quite getting there ever. But this matchup, we've seen Atlanta get lit up lately. Should be much more up paced than what we've seen lately for Boston. They had a fairly comfortable win last night, so it wasn't like everybody was completely taxed out, although they played minutes. I think you'd go right there like that. I have Jalen Brown and Tatum right next to each other. What worries me about Tatum is he's made it very, very vocally clear that since he had COVID, he doesn't have the same energy. His lungs don't feel the same. He runs out of energy. He doesn't feel as that energetic on the court. So it feels weird to play him. I still think he could put up 50 here in his sleep. So I'm still going to play him, but I just want to throw it out there. If you want to look for an excuse to maybe play Jalen Brown at a cheaper price, maybe there's your excuse. And I do think Peyton Pritchard is completely back in play. I don't care about that 6 fantasy point performance. I do warn people all the time when he gets to be chalky that this is not like some sort of lock chalk play at all. Not even close. And I tried to say it last time, and sure enough, I ended up playing in my big one, which I really regretted. I don't think Pritchard's a must, but I do think he's one of the value guys I have circled right now. And then Robert Williams, assuming one of the big guys is out, and probably not otherwise, but Sheets, you watch this guy play, and I even look at his plus minus and stuff. Like, he looks great on the court with them. I think he might end up getting more minutes anyway, even if both these guys play than the 10 or 12 he's projected for. He might end up in the 16 to 20 plus range. Robert Williams.
Oh yeah, I liked him a lot actually yesterday.
But it's going to depend on one of those guys being out to really, then we can really get like a good percentage of him, especially in a matchup where And that's another thing. If Tice plays and Thompson doesn't or something like that on the back-to-back, then you've got, Tice, who's Mr., used to be the guy who fouled out, had the highest foul per minute 2 years ago. I don't know where he's at anymore, but I know he still can get a little handsy. But it just opens things up again for Robert Williams against a team that plays big. So I do like that. Mostly, though, you want heavy focus. Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum are two priorities on the slate. And then my next favorite play in the game, Capella, followed by Pritchard.
So I'm going to also throw in a take which no one's going to remember. But if Jason Tatum is getting a lot of obvious press or whatever for being right on the cusp of being like a really top elite player.
Yeah.
If he doesn't unflatten his shot out a little bit, it's just never going to get there.
But don't you think that to me, it looks like his legs aren't in his shot anymore. And actually, I don't know about that. Like, because his shot has always been a little bit like that, but he used to elevate a lot more.
Yeah.
I think he's tired. I really do. He looks like he looks strained after the first few minutes. And by the way, he busts his ass on defense, which doesn't help us for fantasy. He really busts his ass on defense, and so does Jalen Brown. But
somewhere between the Tatum trajectory and the Lucas / what's his name, Jokic trajectory, somewhere in there has got to be optimal. All right.
What about Derek Fisher? How about Derek Fisher? That's all right. That's a throwback.
Yep.
Here's the highest ranking one. All right. Houston, Philly. Sheets, we're going to do some business in this game. Who do you like on Houston?
Yeah, I would not be so quick. I mean, I'm looking at some of these, at least one set of minutes projection. I would not be so quick to rely on DeMarcus Cousins only getting 22 minutes. It's, he was chalky a couple of times, and, the matchups weren't exactly the same, and he wasn't exactly, thrown in there to close or whatever. But, if they're going to start projecting this guy at 22 minutes, I think it's a little ridiculous. I think that if I know at 6,500, it seems like a lot considering the minutes he's played, but I mean, Embiid is out there, and yeah, Houston could try to do other stuff against it, but I don't know, man. I kind of want to play Cousins and say this minute projection is like ridiculous. That'll be my first take, but then like the fun part, I guess, is what to do with all the other players. So first of all, the obvious play is going to be John Wall again. Certainly really, really strong play. But then what to do with all the other nonsense, right? And so part of the thing, by the way, with Cousins was I was also presuming / hoping, I guess, that PJ Tucker was out. Not that PJ Tucker can really guard Embiid.
Okay? He can do a better job than Cousins, I'll tell you that.
Right, but at least Cousins looks like a center. You know what I mean? Out there, Yeah. And I'll tell you, like, it's what's interesting is if Cousins does play. I mean, like Embiid is. He could get into one of those lazy games, I don't know. It's going to be, I don't know. I don't know what to think about this, but I don't know if I want to. I mean, I guess I have to. I don't know if I want to play Nwaba again. Even if he starts at 4,300, I mean, he did everything perfect. I don't know. I guess he's going to project right into lineup, so it's going to be hard to fade him. But there's him and Tate and House. They all look pretty good. I don't know. I'm just kind of in one of those weird moods where the combination of just trying to do something different, possible blowout risk and whatever. Maybe I'll just try something a little different. Maybe some Sterling Brown instead. Maybe even like something stupid like Ben McLemore. I don't know. It just seems too easy to say, okay, the exact same reserves or the exact same scrubs from Houston are just going to smash again. So maybe that's overthinking it, but that's kind of where I'm at. I think I'm going to end up hoping to not play tonight so I don't take a flyer on Cousins, because I think he's going to be like no own tonight. I think everybody's off him. I think everybody's going to project him into no minutes. But I do think that the other situations were just a little bit different. With respect to Philly, I presume Embiid's going to play. I only think he's going to play.
Yep.
And if he plays, he's got a really, really easy matchup. Not that anybody can really stop him, but it's a particularly easy matchup. In a weird way, I don't know how much extra he is going to get from an easy matchup. You know what I mean? I don't know how to describe this. So Embiid is certainly a play. He's 10-8, which is really expensive. We have to compare him to Jokic among others. I guess he's fine. I'm not going to go back to Simmons. If Embiid plays, you can try to talk me into it. And that's pretty much it. Am I underestimating this Houston value again or no?
Maybe a little bit.
Okay.
If PJ Tucker's out, I think that there's just too many. There's just not enough bodies. We have basically the same situation. But we need to know about PJ Tucker. I'm not. I think Cousins maybe you can argue on Fanduel is in play, but I really think it's reaching.
Okay.
I think it's a nightmare matchup for him. I like the truth is though, what you're saying about the thing about the matchup though is you're right. Like if Tucker is out, really, what are they going to do? Because Tucker, I actually think that is a reasonable solution. You have Tucker front him, and you play some zone, and you double team Embiid on the catch, and you dare the shooters to beat you. That's pretty much the way you play defense against him. If you try to put Cousins up against him one-on-one, Cousins will probably foul out of the game in less than 25 minutes, or Embiid is going to score 1 million fantasy points. I don't think Embiid is in play though. I just think the price it's like on FanDuel, it's funny because it should be less because you don't want to play. You want to play Jokic or whatever, who's cheaper, obviously. But I do think Embiid could outscore Jokic, like 1v1 on a night like tonight. But I don't know that Embiid, like, it's like what we said about. I mean, I thought I was pretty spot on with what I said yesterday about Lillard. There's no way he can break the slate because you have LeBron scored 60.
They all got 6x. All the studs got 6x.
75, yeah. Every which way you look, and it's hard to do that. And so for me, I'm sort of writing off a lot of the spends today on DraftKings. I think the best way to play is get the value you can and play the middling guys. I just don't see these guys standing out. Now, if there's an obscene amount of value that's obvious that opens up, then it becomes a different story. But as of right now, and I honestly, I don't know where the field's going to end up on John Wall. I'll just mention there's a ton of point guards who are less than him that I like just as much, if not more. I do like John Wall. Fine. His usage is absolutely absurd. But it's not like he even shot the ball well against Washington. But let's remember, that was Washington. That was the first time we've had him higher than 41.5 in over a month. And he's been in these spots a lot. So this is not a good matchup. If you want to beat Philly from a guard angle, usually you want to do it from the outside. I have a hard time seeing Houston hanging around this game. But then again, I've seen Philly just look. I mean, they're mostly they've mostly been pretty good, but every now and then they just lay a complete dud against one of these really, really lousy teams. So John Wall is still the guy I'll have the most of on Houston, with Nwaba just behind him as my value play. And then the other guys aren't really value priced. I think that if PJ Tucker's out just because of the number of bodies alone, you could take a shot on Ben McLemore at minimum cost. You could take a shot on Mason Jones. I don't love it. I think mostly it's Nwaba, some House. Deshaun Tate and Nwaba might play like 38 minutes even if they get blown out. Like they just play 1 million minutes. So that's the only reason they're kind of appealing to me. But overall, it's not that exciting. And then I just don't love anything on the Philly side. Again, if we get some guys ruled out or anything, or and we can use some of that value, maybe you can play a little mini stack with Embiid on the other side. And by the way, I just want to say this is a sort of an anti-revenge kind of narrative, but just a fun one to mention. Ben Simmons was offered in the trade. The rumor is that the reason why Houston didn't take Ben Simmons, they wanted Maxey also. Maxey, Philly actually said was untouchable to go with Simmons. They weren't going to trade both of them. So that would have been the trade rather than all the picks for Harden. And them not wanting Ben Simmons should be offensive a little bit to him. And maybe he gets aggressive and goes in the post like he did the other night 500 times. Now, obviously, Embiid didn't play in that game. But if Embiid, for some reason, is out again, which I don't expect, I expect Embiid to play. I think that if Embiid's out, even at 9.2, you jump right back over to Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris. This is a good matchup, and the game should stay a lot closer if we don't have Embiid.
Yeah, just so you know, I mean, like you said, I mean, Embiid, if Simmons does go into the post, I mean, it's just, again, whoever Cousins is guarding is going to be like, it's going to smash pretty much.
Right.
The other thing I will mention is that Ben Simmons still is. I mean, I was watching this when they were playing Portland the other. I mean, he's like an elite defender, man, still. And
you might be the best.
They could stick him on Wall. I'm not too into. I don't think you have to play Wall. I really just don't.
It's weird because he's showing up for other people as like they've got him as the obvious play, the best play, and all this stuff. And I'm just.
Well, it's obvious with respect to the fact that the other scorers are out. right?
I get that, but like, I mean,
But this is it. But Philly plays good defense, and Simmons plays elite defense. And you know, Philly. Listen, Philly knows that all the Houston guys are out too, don't they? I mean, you know, I mean, if I'm coaching and I see that everybody's out, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make sure the one guy who's going to have the ball just gets freaking all the attention. You know, I don't know.
I will say that Wall does look good, but I agree, man. This isn't Washington he's playing against, okay? You know, this team will actually play some defense. So I think we might have to revisit that value, and I'll do that later on today.
Okay.
Indy and Minnesota. Speaking of guys who I prefer, and also he's got the nice little shooting guard eligibility. I think I would rather play Brogdon tonight. I did it the other night. I also played them together a lot. I think I will play them together some tonight too. But I think Brogdon, you know, why not Brogdon? I mean, look, this is a matchup that Indy's struggling. It is a back-to-back. Maybe they do put the hammer down, but Indy has not been good. I think Brogdon at 7,700 is extremely enticing to me. I know he got the overtime to get him to fit. He still had 47 or something, 48 in regulation last game out. 7,700 feels too cheap. Great matchup against Minnesota. So I'm in on Brogdon, probably in the 25 to 35% range, maybe even a little bit higher. I might even go. And then I do like McConnell if nothing crazy opens up. I think he actually is a legitimate. Like McConnell and Gary Trent, I see as very similar plays right now. McConnell's shown a little more upside lately and has the better matchup. They both have great matchups actually, but I think that McConnell's. I don't want to use my point guard spot. He's okay. Like I just don't think I'm going to get to him on a GPP lineup. But I actually think he's like almost like looks like a cash play the way he's been playing. Miles Turner and Jeremy Lamb are long shot tournament plays that I like quite a bit. Especially Turner, I always like him on Fanduel because he can, like he can do the other night, he can get 6 or 7 blocks, and you basically just need him to have, even if he has a bad game the rest of the way, he's going to get 40 fantasy points. And on Minnesota, I don't know what to do. I really don't. I actually think if this was not a back-to-back, I would go back and take a shot on Towns because he's cheap enough. But I think that the main thing might be, you know, our boy Vanderbilt, he was pretty good to us last night, and he's starting, and oddly enough, with Cat back in there, he's played 23 minutes and 29 minutes the last 2 games. That's plenty of time for me against an Indy team that just gets torched by big men. Torched. Which is, you know, kind of surprising considering who they have up front. But, so Anthony Edwards, he went off last night. I got that one wrong. But I don't know how high my level of interest is on the back-to-back for a jump shooter and a tougher matchup. I don't think I'm going to get to a ton of him, but he's definitely on my list right now. Put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough price to pay last night. That's all. I mean, we talked about this during the live show. You know, you're like, you even said I really wish that Edwards was a better price.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you can't play him at that price. You're like, no. I'm like, you really couldn't. He just, you know, just happened to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He had the best game of his life.
Yeah. I like the Brogdon call with respect to, and again, it's not just 2 players on the slate, but just as an example, you to compare him to Wall, like you were saying, you know, they're very, very similar in price, very similar in projection, and one of them is going to be at least half the ownership of the other, right? So to me, that's kind of a classic, you know, GPP type play, right? So I like Brogdon a lot with respect to that, and from instructively, I mean, I think it's really important that you understand why Brogdon is a good play in GPPs. Turner is always a little bit frustrating, but 6,300 maybe worth a shot. I don't really need to play McConnell. I mean, he's fine. You know, this is going to be one of those things where if I'm redoing lineups and there's exactly 5,600 left in like somewhere, I might throw him in. But where is there going to be 5,600 left where I use him? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to use him necessarily. I mean, I might use him in point guard, but I doubt it, right? And a utility, I probably want like a later game. So I don't know if I'm going to get there just the way I would construct. And then on the other side, I'm kind of have a hankering to try Cat. I don't know if it's actually what I'm going to do, but I kind of feel like it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Yesterday was I thought was a pretty good spot for him. Like you said, to go get in low ownership, and he was, pretty pedestrian. But I think if he plays again on the back-to-back, I'm not worried. I mean, I think if he doesn't play, that's one thing. But if he plays, I think he's going to play. You know what I mean? So I think that's an interesting. It's going to be wildly off the board, I think.
The thing that scares me is that he played 32 minutes in a really close game, in a competitive game against the Lakers last night, and he hasn't played more than 33 yet. And I want a guy with upside of 38 minutes in this kind of a matchup, especially when he's honestly just to be honest, he just looks very passive to me. But I do look, there's going to be a slate where he snaps out and breaks everything. And maybe this is the one. I just get worried about those minutes. They seem like they're really monitoring the minutes. They're not really playing for anything. They're one of like the 3 teams that aren't in any sort of contention for anything. So that's my only fear. But that speaks more to also my liking Vanderbilt. But I don't really know if we can do it with anybody else in this lineup. There's just a lot of bodies that don't really do much for me.
Denver, what's next on your list? Denver, Washington?
Yeah, this is the one I want on FanDuel.
All right. So first of all, I mean, this is one, obviously you can't do anything until you know who's playing. Barton, Millsap, Harris, Dozier, they all didn't play yesterday, but who knows? And then if they're all out again, and then Monty Morris, right? So you just have to see. You just have to see who's playing. I can't even speculate right now. I'll just give you a couple of observations. They obviously like Campazzo, right, as a player. So I think that even if Morris, for example, plays, if the other guys remain out, you can still play Campazzo. It feels a little weird. I mean, because I think he played 40 minutes yesterday. 39 or something. You would like to think that they don't, even if they wanted to, they wouldn't want to play him that many minutes. But he's young, right? I mean,
not really young necessarily. I don't know how old he is.
I don't know. I'll tell you who was. I mean, this is what was tilting. Let me tell you what's tilting about Michael Green. I'm gonna tell you what's tilting about, because obviously he's not great, and he's gonna bust a lot of times or whatever it is. Let me tell you the tilting part is that he was getting a little bit of a groove, and then he got a rebound. He missed a layup, okay? Literally a layup. And then he got the ball, when they were down like 8 or something, he was literally wide open for 3, and he was just scared out of his own shadow. Like he just couldn't wait to find someone to pass the ball to. I just, those kinds of guys are just like the worst. They're just the worst.
It used to be, what's funny is that it's strictly in his head, because I think he's only 2 for like his last 16 or something from 3.
Yeah.
So I think it's in his head, because like if you look at like the early in the season, he was taking threes and making them like crazy.
I mean, let me tell you what I would really like to do. Okay, what I would really like to do is just go back to basics. They're playing Washington. Just freaking play Jamal Murray and just be done with it. Right? That's what I'm speaking of 70, point guards in the 7K range, right? Like, yeah, go ahead, go play Wall. He's definitely has a better usage profile, but I get Jamal Murray against Washington. I'll try that. Jokic at 11K. I mean, he's going to score 60. I mean, he just is, right?
Probably.
Is that going to be what you want? I don't know. Maybe it is. But the guy is freaking ridiculous. I don't know what else to say. He had like 42 real life points yesterday. He had only 7 rebounds, I think.
6, yeah.
So I guess the guy you really have to talk about is Michael Porter Jr., right? I mean, he was just miserable. I mean, I don't know if he made a shot. He was 0 for 7 at one point.
0 for 8, yeah.
He ended up 0 for 8. Yeah. So I know he was 0 for 7 at one point, and how many guys must be out for him to do anything? I mean, this is I certainly can't do it on DraftKings at 6,200. I'm kind of afraid what he's going to be on FanDuel. I haven't looked yet, because if he's too cheap, I'm going to end up having to freaking play him again, right?
5,500.
How much?
55.
Okay, it's not like he's 49.
That's
Okay.
pretty deep, 5,500.
Yeah, I know. I've been playing him every day at 5,500.
We would have played him at 7,500 in this spot like last year.
Yeah, that you know what? That's a good point.
Um,
And then I'll go to Washington. Then you could just do the whole thing. And then Washington, I don't want to get too cute. I mean, I certainly think that both Beal and Westbrook are certainly in play. They're both pretty expensive. Then do you want to get uber cute? You want to take a shot on I don't know, Moritz Wagner at 3,800? Maybe.
I don't think that's cute. She's like chalky. I would
Oh
think.
really? Oh.
I mean, I don't know how chalky he'll end up really being on this thing, but he was chalk yesterday.
I mean, between him, Hachimura, Bertans, I guess they're all okay. I just once again, I just kind of feel like I should be playing the Houston guys instead of those. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, go ahead.
So that's pretty much it. What do you got for me?
I love this game on Fanduel as a full game stack. I can go completely.
Right.
On board.
I'm going to pull up Fanduel, my projections here in a sec.
Yeah, you mean Jokic is 10-5 over there. Porter's 55. Jamal Murray's 65. Westbrook's 92. Beal is still 99 or whatever, but you can get it in. It's 99 and 92 out of a 60K salary versus a 50K salary cap. People need to remember that.
Monty Morris is 4,100.
Monty Morris is completely in play if he plays. Absolutely, 100 million%. And as are these other guards, whether he play like Campazzo, whether he plays or not, is in play. I just want to say, like, I saw so many tweets last night after it was about, I don't know, maybe there's a few minutes left in the second quarter or something like that. And everybody just complaining, I didn't even know who this guy was, and he's ruining my lineup. He had 1.5 fantasy points. I mean, Sheets, is there ever a time where that doesn't lead someone to going crazy? They always do, right?
Well, I wonder if the people that said that were doing it on purpose to try to like go the basketball gods into getting them to get there, because I think people are on to that. I think people are on to the whining too early. I think people are whining too early on purpose now to maybe just get to maybe tempt the basketball gods to get them going. I don't know. You think the people that were actually complaining had learned by now that that's like too early to bitch, especially when you're going to be playing 30 plus minutes in the point guard position. But there was definitely a bit of hate, and some of the hate ended up warranted with the Jermichael Green, but the Facundo hate just evaporated.
I'm very, by the way, happy to go right back to Jermichael Green tonight. I know it sounds stupid or whatever, but especially if we have Morris out too and we have less bodies. Look, he's going to play the minutes. It's against Washington. The projection, if we would have put it up yesterday, like I think he'd be projected about 8 to 10 points higher, just because he has the one bad game as the chalk. Everybody lowers it. By the way, Tice and Kemba are ruled out, so we can revisit that Boston thing in a minute. Denver, I want pieces of all these guys. So in order of ownership right now, I have Campazzo the highest. I am a little worried about the back-to-back, even like either way. And like you've seen, like, I mean, he can play 12 minutes and do nothing. And if he does that twice, obviously you end up with nothing. But at the same time, it's weird to say both these things, but he's also very active. And his main focus is on defense, but he gets the 2 steals in the block yesterday. He's a terrific defender. And he can create for his teammates too, especially seems to work pretty well in and out with Jokic and Murray. They did lose last night, and I'm not saying they're going to do anything crazy, but if we did lose Morris again, I would take another shot on RJ Hampton. I think his rebound upside is pretty high. And
I don't know. I didn't like him. You liked the way he played? I don't know.
I didn't like the way he played.
That was the first time I'd seen him play. He didn't do much for me.
I've watched him play for about 2 years now.
Okay.
Since he was in high school and going back, and then all the way along the professional league. I think he's more talented than people think. But it's just about the lack of bodies. I didn't realize they were going to play Vlatko Kankar some minutes.
They sure did.
I didn't like that. But yeah, so in order of ownership, it's Campazzo, Porter, Jokic, Murray, Jokic, Jermichael Green for me. I do think Jokic is too cheap, but I just don't think I'm going to build that way today. I like the Murray idea, and I think that Porter. I think Porter might actually end up being my preferred guy here, because I think people might be off of them a little bit on DraftKings. But if we're really going to get Jamal Murray at lower ownership at only 900 more than Porter.
Well, I will say this to you also. You know how people say, well, you got to throw that last game out because he was 13 for 15 from the field. He's never going to do that again. Or he had like 7 or 8 blocks. Never going to do that again. I would just like to say that Jamal Murray had 45 fantasy points yesterday, including 9 turnovers. Okay. Yep. So the 9 turnovers is not happening like ever again. And I'll tell you this, the 9 turnovers is never happening against Washington. Okay. This is, you talk
I don't
about,
know about that. Washington will force some turnovers.
I don't know. You talk about park upgrades and stuff like that. I mean, you go from Boston to Washington. You know, that's as bad as good as it gets. I mean, not exactly, but
yeah, and that's my argument for why I would throw in some RJ Hampton. And I'm talking about like 5 to 10%. I'm not talking about like playing in heavily. I'm just saying that this Washington team is Coors Field.
It's actually almost bizarre when you think that they reduced his price by 100 from the Boston to the Washington matchup, right?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't really understand that one.
Maybe they expect some of the other guys back. Nah, they're just making it.
I think they're just making it up. But I really have a hard time getting to anybody except for oddly Mo Wagner on DraftKings, and it's just eats up so much of your salary. Westbrook has always played incredible against the Nuggets, who actually have one of the most consistently similar rosters every year. So you could take that for what it's worth. Bradley Beal could certainly go off here. There's a lot of, Jamal Murray also. Talk about narrative too. I mean, there was a lot of talk about how they were going to try and they're supposedly putting it together a package with Jamal Murray and some others for Bradley Beal before the season started. Just a little bit of an interesting thing to think about, but I just don't think at these prices that it makes enough sense for me to play any of these guys.
All right, moving along. Detroit, Chicago. What did I hear? Like Blake is going to be traded or something?
Probably. They're sitting him until.
Who wants him?
I don't know who wants him. That's what I was trying to figure out too. I could see him ending up like in Brooklyn or something.
Oh God.
I don't know. Who wants him? Look, he is what he is. He still actually plays like decent basketball. Like he does like.
It's very slow.
He's slow and he hasn't dunked in like 3 years. Literally. Isn't that crazy?
So I like so let's talk about some of these Detroit guys. Plumlee, 7,200. Can you do it at 7,200?
No. Well, you just got to weigh him versus the other guys you'd be playing him against. So you're going to play him over Capella?
No. Nope. Not happening. Yeah. Especially with, like I said, with Tice out, it's just not happening.
Well, can he have a good game here? He probably does have a really good game here, but I don't know if you can do that.
Yeah, I like I don't like that much from Chicago. Let's start with Chicago. I really don't like that much from Chicago. Levine is another 9K guy, and it's really funny. I was naming these other 9K guys, and I kept on saying, well, they're probably a better 9K guy, but I don't know, man. Is Levine like that great a play at 9,400? He's fine, right? But these other guys like Trae Young is a decent play. These other Cat, they have a different position, but Cat's a decent play. There's Beal. There's other 9K guys that can do something. It's not like Levine's like a lock or anything like that. Not that anybody said that he was. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. I don't know if I want to play these high minute guys from Chicago today. Like I don't know if I want to play Denzel Valentine or Patrick Williams or Garrett Temple, guys like that. I don't know. Detroit, back to them. Jeremy Grant, you know what's resonating in my head? Something you said like literally 10 games ago, that Jeremy Grant's big usage was all with all these guys out. But now Blake's out. Maybe 7,500 is the time to get back in on him. So I give him a shot. I almost was kicking myself. It turns out he didn't smash, but remember we both played. Actually, you played him probably more than I did. Dennis Smith Jr. when he was 3K. Mm-hmm. Then he came back his another game on the weekend, and it looked like he was going to do something. Oh yeah, it was on Valentine's Day, and it looked like he was going to make everybody look silly. And they only played him 12 minutes after all that. But I'm like, oh my God, we missed it. He's gonna freaking score 40 fantasy points. So I'm back to my original concept with him. Is that why would they trade for him if they didn't want to play him? So I might flick him into my player pool. DeLon Wright's the safer play, I suppose. But I don't know. You want to go back to Sadiq Bey with now Blake's basically
500?
No, right? I'm throwing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So I think this game might be kind of almost a throwout. I don't know.
So I actually like the Detroit guys a little bit. I do like Jeremy Grant. I don't like him better than Jalen Brown necessarily, but I think you can play those two guys in the same lineups, no problem.
Okay.
I'm absolutely going to start taking shots on Dennis Smith Jr.
There we go. Okay.
With every game, it should open up more and more. Like they should be getting him involved, right?
That's what I would think.
Why they wouldn't? I don't have there's no projection thing that's going to tell you he's a good play. There's nothing out there. But one thing you can do is play Svi Mikhailuk too. He's getting run, but I do think those minutes are going to trend towards what's his name? Towards Dennis Smith Jr. But I mean, Mikhailuk played 25 minutes in the last game, put up 30 fantasy points. The thing is, Dennis Smith Jr., even if he's scheduled to play 15 or 16 minutes, they think, or something like that, that could easily turn into 20 plus if he gets hot, or even a lot more. And it is kind of a great matchup for him. Look, maybe we'll find other things later in the day. It stands out as an interesting play to at least take a shot on. I do think DeLon Wright's kind of interesting. I think it's also interesting that since Dennis Smith Jr. has been there, I know it's a small sample size with the minutes, but he's the second highest usage rate of anybody on this team.
Yeah.
DeLon Wright never has. That's what's always hard for me with him is like, how do I pay for a guy who has like a 15% usage rate or 17%? Well, that's a lot. I guess it's closer to 20 lately. He had the one game against Brooklyn where he was high usage, but mostly he's not a high usage guy at all. But I do think this is a good matchup for him, and he's played really good in just in real life basketball terms. So I have it Grant, then DSJ, then DeLon Wright. Probably end up with more DeLon Wright than I do of Grant if I end up with any at all, because you don't really need to play these guys. And then Josh Jackson makes more sense on FanDuel. I think he benefits. The problem with this is that while all those things are true, we no longer have Rose and we no longer have Blake Griffin for Jeremy Grant, so that should lead to a good game for him. But we do have Josh Jackson who can be pretty active, and we have Dennis Smith Jr. who can be extremely active for those minutes he's on the court. So that's going to dictate some of it too, because Dennis Smith Jr. is like as high I mean, he's probably a higher usage than Derrick Rose and Blake Griffin combined. So, just to think about it. But I do think Jeremy Grant is a guy I plan on having more than 20% of. I don't know exactly what I'll end up with, but that's where I'm at. Levine is always in play, but I just want to point out, I did some studying this morning because I woke up really early. He's shooting almost 65% in games where he scored more than 50 fantasy points from three, 65% from three. That's a really hard thing to count on, and on high volume. Like, I mean, he had games where he was 11 for 14 from three, 8 for 11 from three, 9 for 14 from three the other day, 6 for 8, 8 for 14, 10 for 16. Like he makes a lot of them. He's been one of the best shooters and one of the best, most efficient scorers in the NBA. He's absolutely fine tonight. It's a good matchup, but I just don't think that's where I'm going to end up spending.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah. So this is the weird one that no one wants to play any of these guys, but there's not that many of them.
Which one? The next game or this game?
The next game coming up, Portland.
Okay.
I think I'm kind of. My initial take was I'm kind of on that idea of not playing anybody. So how does that work? Sheets. We talked about 8-man rotations. How is that going to work? And probably so New Orleans is number 29 in defense in the NBA right now. They're playing currently at an absolutely blistering pace, like lightning quick, as fast as anybody in the NBA at the moment. They're also, and like I said, they're poor defensively overall. And you have 8 players against them in a game with the highest total on the slate. How can we not play anybody?
What are we going to do? We want to play?
I'm asking because I'm really trying to figure it out myself. I don't know.
We want to play lower to 10-3?
I mean, it makes more sense on DraftKings, but sure. Like, I know it's a back-to-back, but how about taking some shots on Anthony Simons again? I know he only played 18 minutes the other night.
I didn't like, what I didn't like about the Simons was that he had 15 real-life points and was doing really well, and they didn't want to close it.
Because they were up by 55 points or something.
You sure about this?
I'm positive they were blowing him out. The game was like 35 points in the third quarter.
Okay.
So I actually think that actually lends itself more to him, but not in a blowout realm. But I don't think this is a blowout kind of game. These guys are both on back-to-backs. Nobody grades out to be absolutely awesome. Maybe Lillard is the guy who you consider spending up for. It's a pretty freaking awesome matchup. I mean, it's not an awesome matchup for Cantor, but it is interesting. I haven't seen these guys play against each other at all. In fact, I don't think.
Oh wait, I just figured out why they want to close with Simmons.
What's that?
Is 6 personal fouls.
Oh well, that's going to make it harder also.
In 18 minutes.
They're also up by a bunch.
In 18 minutes.
Yeah. So no, that's an important thing to notice, though. I mean, I actually thought it was.
What is he, Jaren Jackson? What is this? What is this nonsense?
You know how some of these games are like that, though, when they're blowouts, they kind of get. Actually, the game ended up getting a little bit closer. I can't remember what it was.
11. Are you sure about this? Okay.
It was like 30 points. I mean, it was 25 at halftime.
Oh, okay.
With Lillard, I remember, or no, it was 25 just before halftime. Maybe they made a run right before. I don't remember exactly what it was, but the point is, it was pretty well in control. Lillard was just going nuts, but Simons, yes. So Simons is on the board. Derrick Jones Jr. Obviously, again, it's actually a good pace game for him. 4K is not too much. You know, probably not going to crush it, but can get you 24 to 25. I actually like this matchup a lot for Carmelo. I think there's some upside for his minutes here, even on the back-to-back. It's not like. Doesn't worry me a ton for him. He's sort of in the last legs of his career. I think he'll play enough minutes. I'm just sort of open to all these guys, but I honestly don't know who to play yet. And maybe the answer is as simple as just playing a little bit of Gary Trent, but that doesn't feel exciting. I mean, it just feels wrong to play nobody from this game, and no one wants to, and I get it. I can look at it and see why. But I think we want to try and figure out a way to try and play somebody here. There's just, how do you do it with 8 bodies? And these are not like just 8 bodies. There's good basketball players here. Now the pricing, they did a good job pricing them up, but somebody should do something.
You like Zion?
So I watched that game really closely last night, and boy, I'm telling you, they are on a different level with Zion now. They're treating him like he's bringing the ball up court. He's playing like the point. I mean, literally, that's what he was doing last night. It was pretty wild with the second unit. And he started, I think he had 1 fantasy point at the end of the first quarter, or with a minute to go in the first quarter. And he ended up with 51. And that was in 28 minutes. So they didn't play him all of his minutes. I think he'll get his full run. The coach has been absolutely adamant. Van Gundy said that Zion, what he said during the interview, everyone's a mismatch for Zion. And then, but the before game quote was, we're going to play, we have to monitor minutes maybe as the season goes. Right now, we're not in that phase. We're going to play these guys every minute they can handle. That makes me feel excited about Zion. I like him a lot in this matchup. I don't love that it's a back-to-back, but I still love him. And they get to stay at home. So so Zion's my highest level of interest. I like Josh. Look, everybody can keep calling it chasing with Josh Hart all you want. That's fine with me. The guy is extremely active on the court and has multiple routes to get you there. He's willing to chuck, which is nice. It's also nice when he makes 6 of 11. That makes it a lot easier. But I mean, then again, he also shot 3 of 9 from 3 in a game, and he put up 53 because he rebounds so much. He had 9 rebounds yesterday. Don't see why this is a very similar matchup to me. Don't see why he couldn't do the same thing again here today. So I have a little bit of interest in Hart. And then if Steven Adams does in fact play the back-to-back, I'm interested, and I think he will. So Adams and Cantor were really good friends in OKC when they played there with Westbrook. And I'm sure they must have played every day in practice and everything. I didn't get the sense of any kind of a rivalry. I actually felt like they seemed like pretty good friends. But Adams was always the starter there. Adams is 5,100. Cantor is still not a good defender. I'm interested in some Steven Adams if he plays. And if we're really questioning whether he's going to or not, then it might just be the easiest move in the world. You just load up on Hernan Gomez and call it a day.
Oh, you really think that there's a chance he doesn't play?
He's questionable, and it's a second of a back-to-back, and he's missed some time, and his minutes have been cut. And even, by the way, if he does play, 3 out of the last 5 games, you've got 25, 27, and 38 out of Hernan Gomez. That's pretty good.
I will comment again, is that yesterday I was doing forget what I was doing. Yeah, I was doing a slate review with somebody, and we were talking about the Zion game from yesterday. And I remember I half sarcastically said to the person who I was doing the thing with, I said, "Go ahead, you want to take Zion, take your 40?" And this person said to me, they said, "No, this is the game he's going to get 50." And then I said, "Yeah, okay, whatever." So I'm just trying to think of who that was that I was having that conversation with. I forget who it was, but I'll tell you this: his initials are the same as Bobby Firestone. So I'll leave with that.
I'll take any credit I can get for last night. I nailed so many plays and I couldn't win a dime.
You know what I want to do, by the way? This is like another thing that I really want to do content-wise, and this is nothing premium or anything like that. This is just something that I just think would be fun, and it is a little bit of accountability. I keep meaning to do this.
Yeah, let's do it.
So much do this for me is to go back like after the day is over and pick like our audio video clips from our preview from the previous day, and we'll each identify like the best take and the worst that we did, like and just actually go back and see the exact vocal intonations and exactly how confident we were, because because it is a little bit of accountability that's missing from the industry.
I'm with you, but I'll take my accountability. I was completely wrong about some things yesterday, like Edwards.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but that's part of the fun. You know what I mean? Is when I come out and I say, "Oh my God!" Like KC is totally going to outcoach Tampa. It's like a total colossal joke. You know what I mean?
No, it's fun. It definitely is fun both ways, but obviously it's more fun when you're right.
You sure? Okay. All right. What we got next? OKC, Memphis.
Yeah, OKC Memphis.
All right. Anybody know who's playing?
I mean, we know that we can assume Horford's out. If he is not, I think he might have actually been announced out while we've been.
Who finally did something last night, and it kind of saved me on Fanduel a little bit.
Yeah.
Your Dort.
Yeah, Dort. Look, he can play, man. And
Dort had like 0 fantasy points in like the first half or something.
That's what happens.
And he was in the 30s by the end of the night, I think.
Yeah, I think he had mid 30s to high 30s actually. Actually, so let's look at Dort. I mean, Dort's also he's forward eligible, which is nice, and shooting guard eligible, which the other 5,600 guy we mentioned in McConnell isn't. But look at Dort. He's got 30 and 3 out of his last 4. He's flashed a ceiling of 40, 46, 47 a couple times this year. It's not the most exciting play in the world, but
this is the thing. I mean, this is the thing about this game. I mean, this is like for sure. I think is that Al Horford. We did this before, right? We went through a whole slate, and then like with like 2 minutes to go, you said, "Oh, by the way, Al Horford could be out." I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay." And then it turns out that he was out. Roby was a lock, and we just kind of forgot to emphasize it. So I'm gonna deal with that right now.
I don't think anybody's not emphasizing it. I was about to say he's the most obvious play on the slate. He's already
right. No, I meant that the last time happened, I forgot. So we wanted to make sure that we. So I'm gonna tell you what happens. So 2 things happen. If Horford is out,
yeah, he's out. I think. I mean, I don't have a projection for him, but
two guys are a lock. Roby and probably Jova. Like, what's going to happen in this game if Joval is like, if he plays, I presume he's going to play, and if they have nobody to guard?
What's that?
It's kind of, it seems like the Tice thing to me. I mean, I think Joval is very similar to Capella today, and I think he's a tremendous play, and I think that Ja is a really good play too. I like both those guys from Memphis.
Yeah, I have no interest in Joval whatsoever. I can go back through years of this, and I think once out of however many times in the back-to-back, he actually had a decent game. He's never had a good back-to-back game, like ever.
Really?
Okay. I mean, he's not that kind of a guy, and also he doesn't play that many minutes anyway. So you're kind of asking for a lot. The one back-to-back he played this year, he played 13 minutes. Brandon Clark is also back. Joval actually played 28 minutes last night, put up 17 fantasy points. Now, the weirdest part is because of his price, I think people initially are going to gravitate a little bit because they see nobody in the front line and all that stuff. I just have no interest in doing that. I would much rather you know what? I say this now. When it comes down to it, at the end of the day, if I have, a couple lineups, wouldn't I maybe play him in one lineup over Capella, because he does. I don't want to talk myself into this. I'd rather stick with not thinking of him much.
No, bad play.
But but there's, like, we've seen that happen with Joval though too, where like just he's sort of off the radar, and then he puts up like 30 in the first quarter. You don't usually hear from him much afterwards.
And then he ends up getting 36 for the game.
Exactly, that's right. Yeah, so Roby's like kind of an obvious one. He's your chalk cash play everywhere. I don't mind. Like Dort and Diallo are both in play, but I don't know where I'll really end up with them on either of them.
You would go to them today?
Look, we have no Horford. Who's going to play for these guys? We have nine bodies. Somebody has to run the offense. You know what I mean?
Right.
Darius Miller's probably going to play a few minutes. Justin Jackson is now, and Kendrick Williams. Now the funny part is they're all better plays than they have been. We do have Maladon back, but we lose Horford, so you actually lose the guy you run your offense through. You actually essentially lose your point guard. So I'm into taking shots on Maladon for sure. Who probably is the most rested of everybody because he just had the protocol thing he had to be out for.
Right.
So I actually think Maladon is worth taking a shot on at 5K. I don't know how much I'll really get to him, but he's just on my board right now. And Dort and Diallo, but mostly it's just Roby for me on OKC. The other guys are just sort of long shot tournament things. And then I have Ja. I'm not going to stop playing Ja. Last night, I mean, look, if they didn't lose by 33, he gets to his 50 plus. He had 46 anyway. He's just a really, really good play to me. And he also is another one of those pivots off of Wall, or you can play him with Wall and Brogdon, which I did in my first lineup build today. That's where I'm at. I don't really have a ton of interest in these other Memphis guys. Maybe Dylan Brooks on Fanduel. Maybe a little. I don't know. I just don't love anything else. And I'm worried about Brandon Clark coming off the injury, already limited in minutes. So like there should open up some front court minutes, but there's just too many bodies right now. And
okay,
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see even if everybody plays in that game. I'm curious to see about Joe Val. Maybe if Joe Val does play, it's a little bit of a different team. Maybe he is more in play than I gave him credit for. All right, Chief, let's jump over to Miami Golden State.
Okay. So there's another one that pretty smart dude caught up on pretty early on in the cycle. That and what's interesting is that you're able to kind of pivot off of your initial leans to start off the season. Like at the very first couple of games of the year, you were saying that, dude, I just don't play Jimmy Butler in the regular season. It's just not worth doing. And pretty quickly, you just kind of sensed that, you know, that there was kind of either a different Jimmy Butler or maybe their motivation just a little differently. And he's in the last however many games, he's just been the man. That's the best I can describe it. It's the Butler that any of three teams that got him in the last couple of years, right, really wanted to see out of him. And you know, we've talked about all these other $9,400 guys. I mean, you're going to tell me that, for example, Jimmy Butler's not going to outscore Trey sometimes at 1,000 less, right, or something like that, or Butler's not going to outscore Zach LaVine at like 600 less sometimes. If not all the time, and they're playing Golden State, for Christ's sake.
This is when you go scoreboard. Just look at the scoreboard. This is when you can actually point to the game logs and just take a look at it. Two things happened. One, Miami is desperate and was looking like they were on the outside looking into the playoffs, and they still are in a little bit of that position too. The other thing is Goran Dragic is out, and when that happens, they tend to run it through Jimmy or Bam, and both of those guys I think are terrific plays today. But I prefer Jimmy over Bam. I do think Bam is going to be significantly less owned, but I like both of them quite a bit. And I'm not a guy who always loves paying this price for Butler, but in this situation, I definitely think it's warranted to have some shots there. But no one's going to play Bam, and who the hell do they have to match up with Bam? Like, he could go completely just nuts. And by the way, Bam just coming off a 58 fantasy point game also. It's not like they both can't get there. This is a great matchup for both of them. I will definitely be getting some exposure to both sides. Currently have both of them around 25% in my builds. Bam around 20, Butler around 25. But I think that, we'll see how that ends up, but that's where I'm at right now. And I want some other pieces in this game too. I've seen Golden State play a lot faster. I think you're going to have open looks for Duncan Robinson. Now, can he make them? If he makes, his average 40% of them.
Excuse me, you give me open looks at Duncan Robinson, I'll worry about him making them. You know what I mean? Like, that's fine by me.
If he gets open looks, you're saying it's good. It's money in the bank.
It's fine by me. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm all
He'll
good.
make him. He's proven to me. Listen. I was kind of like joking about Tatum's shot as opposed to Luka's or whatever. Duncan Robinson is like totally pure. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like anytime he goes on a bad streak, it's complete variance. I'm not interested in that at all.
I totally agree with you. I think he has one of the best strokes in basketball, and he tends to take good threes. I actually think he'd be. Sometimes the team wants him to take more, but and Hero's in play. So all of those guys, I have double-digit ownership percentages of. Now, is there a chance that in a competitive game, like maybe if I'm playing those guys, I don't think I can really run it back with too many guys on the other side. If there was one day to maybe give Iguodala, maybe if there were still fans in Golden State, they were all cheering him and they gave him a few extra minutes of run, that would be a time where maybe we could use him at 3,100 here. I don't think I'm going to get to it, but let's just say I haven't written it off yet. Okay. I really like trying to attack Golden State. The problem is I cannot figure out how to play anyone on Golden State. Steph, you can always play, obviously, can just always go nuts, but I just don't see anybody else who's even somewhat viable.
Yeah, I didn't really get to anybody from Golden State at all.
It's weird to have 5 guys on one side and nobody on the other side. All right, Utah and LA. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm unfortunately one of those guys that I don't want to say is not convinced that Utah's not as good as people think they are, but I will say this, that if you get news that Kawhi is out, I think you just have to stack this whole thing. I really think that the Clippers are just kind of better in general. And then people
without Kawhi and Paul George, you think that they're better than Utah?
I don't know why I think that, but that's just kind of where I'm at. And it's the way, dude. It's the way I've been talking about these teams forever. Like these teams that.
This is a totally different team.
Okay. Well, let's. I'll put it another way. So they were missing everybody in the last game, right?
Who? The Clippers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were they playing the Jazz?
No, and they beat Miami by 7. You know what I mean? It's not like they're hopeless.
Miami's 10 and 50, 11 and whatever. I don't know.
But I'm just telling you, they're not hopeless. So I'm saying if you're going to not play Utah guys, for example, because you think Kawhi is going to be out, I think that's a mistake. I just do.
Okay. Well, also let me throw off some interesting Utah stats. The greatest team in the history of basketball on a run that no one has ever been on before, 20-1 over their last 21 games against the spread. 20-1. That's pretty phenomenal. I absolutely buy into Utah. I think that they're absolutely loaded. They haven't let up one bit without. And by the way, they face some of these other teams who are playing out of their minds against them, and they just smoke them anyway. They are really, really good. I worry about this game no matter what. I certainly wouldn't go crazy and say something like, without Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, the Clippers are nowhere near a 500. They're nowhere near a playoff team. The Utah is going to win the West or come in second. They're going to be 1 or 2. I don't even think it's even a question anymore. Personally, I think they could lose a player the rest of the year, the whole season. They were missing 2 guys, and they had no Bogdanovich last year in the bubble, by the way. O'Neal has taken a lead. Mike Conley is back to being one of the better players, and he's supposed to play tonight. I don't know for sure that he will. But I do say that I love Rudy Gobert here. I just think that you have an easy near 40 with an upside of like 60. I don't know. It's a great matchup for him. There's nobody inside. He should get every rebound. I could see him having 15 plus, maybe 20 boards. Shot blocking, it's a great matchup for that as well. Everything about this, without Kawhi especially, just makes me love Gobert.
Well, I do think you have to leave room because I don't think the Kawhi news comes out until late. And I think you want to be prepared to play guys like Reggie Jackson and who else? Marcus Morris.
All of them.
Yeah. So what that means is you probably want to play some Miami guys or something. You know what I mean? Like you gotta do something that you can live with. That if you find out at like 9:30, because look at the times of these games. Like you find out at like 9:15 that Kawhi is out, you're just gonna want to jam those dudes in there. So it's an interesting construction question for sure. Now I'll say this: that if Kawhi plays, I want to play Kawhi.
Yeah, I think Kawhi's fine. I just don't know. I actually think he's a solid play. You have to find a 2v2 pivot. I guess you could use Butler or Bam or something. I mean, there's ways to work it out with the Miami side of the Golden State game. I think what you do though is, first of all, Serge Ibaka is in play anyway. 5.2K is way too cheap for him. Look, it's not just about the matchup. It's not like we were playing Serge Ibaka so he goes out there and scores 30 real life points. We don't need that necessarily from him. We can get 15, 10, and 5. He actually is a pretty good assist guy, especially if Kawhi is out. Well, I mean, okay, so if Kawhi and Paul George, obviously Paul George is out. Right now, my plan is to play to put Ibaka in some of my lineups, no matter what. I have some Kawhi that I can try and pivot off of with 2v2s. Marcus Morris with no Kawhi is still in play to me, but Reggie Jackson would be probably one of the priorities, along with possibly Terrence Mann. And
he doesn't do anything though, does he?
And what is he? He doesn't have to do that much. I mean,
okay.
He put up 28 the other night.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, played 37 minutes. That's good enough for me at 4,300. So he's on my list. They're all on my list. I don't think that Lou Williams is like the kind of guy I would want to take against them. And he's taken all the shots and everything. But at 6,900, like, Lou Williams has actually been shooting the ball pretty well. And he had that one monster game against Cleveland. And he's had 10 assists in back-to-back games. But yet he's still with 20 shots a game. And he's not even like the combined score between those games is 43, which we would be happy to take at 6,900. But that's like him playing insanely well and running everything. So I guess if we knew early that Kawhi was out, you could take a shot on Lou Will. I just don't know that it makes that much sense if we don't know. You lose everything with him. I feel like there's almost no chance he gets there. I feel like if Kawhi plays, very little chance, I should say. And then the other guy who I would be loaded up on is I don't care how badly he struggled or how ugly it was for most of the game the other night. I'll play Luke Kennard again.
Okay.
All right, you want to jump over to Fanduel?
Yeah, sure. Let me just scooch you over there.
All right.
Okay.
So it's very different over here, by the way. Some of the pricing really does change things. You want to start it off with point guard? Or you want me to start it off?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
So on FanDuel, again, I think the clear spend up for me is actually going to be Dame at point guard.
Yep.
At 9,500, and then depending on who plays, right? I mean, if you get everybody out and Michael Carter Williams starting, I mean, you can certainly play him at 4,400. If Monty Morris is back, you could play him at 4,100. And then if you wanted to play middling, again, it's the same the same 7K-ish type things. But then again, Wall is real expensive over here. Then Ja becomes like almost an elite play over here now.
Yeah. 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 So I like Westbrook. Westbrook and Lillard, I think, would be my main attempt to try and get them together. I also love Murray though, and I like that game stack. But I think Dame is a great play. Mostly I like Westbrook a lot he's going to be much lower owned than Dame is. And I think that their actual range of outcomes isn't as far as maybe the projections would have it. John Morant. It's funny though that everybody wants to play John Morant over here. No one will play him on DraftKings. I'll just keep playing things also. Like, I do think we're going to lose all the value from Denver potentially because we don't know yet. Gary Harris is questionable now.
Yeah.
And Monty Morris is questionable. But Gary Harris being questionable, that would just eliminate a lot of this other nonsense or whatever we want to call it.
Yeah.
So I think that the priorities for me are going to be Murray, Westbrook, Lillard, Morant, and I don't really have anybody else except for Brogdon that I'm all that interested in. I don't think Steph is a bad play though to get off of some of those other guys.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
That's that's a pretty healthy price now.
I mean, it's right there with Lillard and Westbrook, and to be honest, he's been better than Lillard by quite a bit, actually, for the most part. Well, kind of comes and goes, but I mean, he's actually been better with Lillard. Wow, even fantasy-wise, it's almost close.
God, shooting guard stinks.
It sucks. So you build your point guards first. By the way, I just want to say though about Lillard, just before everybody just jumps and says, okay, yeah, we're playing tournaments here, people. And as great as he's been, as great as he is, and we would take 50 some odd fantasy points from him, it's not like he's put up 60. He's put up 60 once since McCollum left. And
is that it?
Just once. And on FanDuel, he's never as good at play because he's going to turn the ball over some. He doesn't get the steals and blocks that other guys do who are active. and the 3-pointers, you don't get any bonuses for that. So he's a guy who there's a reason why he's priced higher on DraftKings than he is on FanDuel. Let's put it that way. He's still a great play, but I'm just saying, like, just realize a little bit what you're getting into. That Westbrook has more of the games that you'd want than he does in the last whatever 20.
All right, so I'll so it's shooting guard. I'll throw out somebody I don't play too often. I'm just looking at a price. I mean, just doesn't make any sense. I mean, doesn't make any sense. Just it's really cheap. Is you get Eric Bledsoe at 4,800.
Yeah.
And that's between him and Seth Curry. Those two guys are really cheap. I guess from a just raw points thing, it's you want to play Bradley Beal. I mean, you can certainly do it. Or you could go to Donovan Mitchell off the kind of pedestrian effort, but yeah, maybe do something like that. But for me, it's
go ahead.
What's that?
We need to know about Conley, really. Like, hopefully we'll have that information before, but we don't necessarily know for sure. And Conley dictates everything. The reason why we've loved Mitchell and why all that stuff is because Conley was out.
You wouldn't play Mitchell if Conley were in?
No, God. I don't think Mitchell's gotten there this year with Conley in, like, once.
Okay.
I mean, Conley affects, and it takes away Clarkson. I mean, just look at the shot. So with Conley out, you get 24 shots a game from a guy who shoots, 17 to 20. Otherwise, that's still a pretty healthy amount. He got there a couple times with Conley there. Well, twice. But you're looking for the real ceiling type of game from him, and that's going to happen a lot more because the usage goes way through the roof without Conley. It goes from about 25 to like 33, which is just an absurd usage rate. It's kind of surprising that he actually isn't averaging more fantasy points, but yeah, if Conley's back, I'm not going to be interested in. If Conley is out again, I absolutely am interested, and I'm interested in Jordan Clarkson as well.
I'll tell you what doesn't suck is small forward. So small forward.
Well, let me finish my shooting guard.
Oh yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So the top guys I've got is honestly it's really gross, but is Dort and Herter. And then
Herter's like always a good play, right? I mean.
Yeah, I mean it's just the only thing about him is annoying is like. You really start to get a feel for why some of these guys are priced different. One thing about Herter that's a little bit different though is like Herter, I feel like he gets treated like he's done Duncan Robinson, and Duncan Robinson actually I think is not as terrible defender, but gets absolutely 0 blocks and steals. Like absolutely cannot get a block and a steal. He's like 7 all year combined. Herter will get you a couple steals, and that doesn't sound like much, but on FanDuel, when you can get 2 or 3 of those things and add 6 or 9 extra points, it's huge. It's a game changer. So Herter actually does a little better. I think Dort also fits that category. So they're the guys who stand out at the cheap price. I do think that Clarkson as well is interesting, and Jeremy Lamb. But everybody is sort of like blah for me, which means maybe we throw in one lineup with just Levine and Beal and just take the raw points.
Could be.
Okay. Small forward?
Yeah, small forward's kind of loaded, isn't it? I mean, you have loaded in as much as you have Jalen Brown.
Not a good price.
You got Jimmy Butler. He's 9,400, but still.
They're all bad prices, though.
I mean, then you got Michael Porter Jr., God help us, at 5,500.
That's a great price.
And yeah, I guess it's not that loaded, but I think those 3 are kind of really good plays.
Yeah, I don't like this small forward position, but I do think Porter and Barrett are my favorites. Jalen Brown, Jeremy Grant just behind them. Like almost identical with them, actually. Jeremy Grant is probably the guy you want to play. Once you get, and again, I like Jimmy Butler, but once you get to 94 range, I'm starting to go, okay, well, why don't I just try to find room and play Kawhi and see what happens if he doesn't play?
Yeah, I don't mind him either.
Yeah, but that's how I feel about it. I don't feel like there's any like guys you must play. If there is one, it'd be Porter. And it's not that you must.
Some of these Denver guys are back, by the way. There's a very real chance that Porter gets a DNP.
No, there's not. I don't think so. Has he?
I don't know, man. He's been just so bad, and I don't know.
He hasn't had one this year, I don't think.
No, he's earned it.
Guy, the coach does.
He's earned one. He's earned one.
You're right. He definitely has earned one. That's fair enough, Sheets. All right, power forward.
Yeah, sure. If you don't want to do that, let's go. Let's stack them again. We'll play Porter and JaMychal Green. We'll do it again. 4,200. There it is. Or if you want to play a guy that's going to actually score more than 10 fantasy points, you can play Zion Williamson again. I don't think that anybody on Portland is going to be able to guard him. I don't think I'm going to pay up 9,700 for Sabonis. Tatum again, probably a good play. Yeah, so those are my favorite. I guess JaMychal Green, he's have, good value. But Zion, maybe that's the idea. Zion, I think Zion, its first look is definitely my favorite.
Yeah, so it's interesting to me that no one's going to play Sabonis over here. I really don't think they're going to. So I actually think Sabonis and Tatum, I mean, I don't know, maybe it'll change by the end of the day, but I think Sabonis and Tatum are both terrific. And I don't think that again, I'm a little worried about this thing with Tatum about it. I think it's a great situation for him, but we've seen him literally underperform in every single game but one since he's come back. And he looks winded, and it's a second of a back-to-back. And he's been vocal about how the COVID affected him. So the cheap guys for me are Roby and JaMychal Green. And then the spend-ups are Tatum and Tatum, Zion, and Sabonis. But then I'm going to mention the guy who I think might be the better than the other ones, or might be the sneakiest of all of them. Although Sabonis is going to be sneaky possibly too, because the projections aren't there. But Bam Adebayo again, I just really like him in this matchup. And I'm going to throw one other name out there for you. Obviously, you got the Clipper situation, so you can always consider what's his name, Morris and all that stuff. And if that happens, but right now I think Patrick Williams I'll take a shot on again at 4,500. People who out there, and I've heard a lot of people say, I hate when people say players, you know this about me, Sheets. I hate when people just announce players suck and all this, especially when they're 19 years old. Patrick Williams is the best defender on the Bulls, and he's actually like an awesome defender. So he doesn't always have the opportunity to provide a lot of fantasy greatness. But when you get a sloppy team that doesn't play, that offensively really like struggles and turns the ball over, and he's a guy who can get steals and blocks, and also they're going to miss a lot of shots. I just feel like there's opportunity for him just to get there by being on the court for 34 minutes at 4,500. So those, I guess I put him right there with Roby and JaMychal Green, maybe a little bit ahead of JaMychal Green actually.
Okay.
Oh, and John, again, sorry, last one, John Collins. Don't forget about, if you're mass entering, don't forget John Collins and Jared Vanderbilt. That's it. Sorry. And that's a lot of names at power forward.
Center.
Center.
Boy, oh boy, Jokic at 10-5.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to resist that one.
Gonna be hard to resist it. But if you do, okay, so this is the way I always talk about this. There's a couple of ways you could do this. If let's say you like a lot of other guys better, let's say you want to get to Lillard and Beal and some of these other positions and pay for Kawhi, and you just can't afford Jokic. Or let's say you can. Two things you could do, because again, Jokic is going to be really, really popular, I imagine. Couple of things you can do. Number one, if you want to pay, there's nobody you could pay all the way down for as far as I'm concerned. You could pay significantly down for Cantor, though. You could do that. And that's 6,600. I think he's going to get some. So this is why I think about this. So he's kind of like the pivot, but kind of like the chalkier pivot, right? If you want to pay down. So if you want to do the pivot off the pivot, you could do go back to Miles Turner or something like that. So if you want to not pay the 10-5 and not use Cantor, you could play Miles Turner. The other thing you could do is if you don't want to pay down, but you don't want to pay Jokic, and this is kind of rough, but you could play Vooch or something like that, at 1/4 of the ownership of Jokic. Or
Vooch is going to get some ownership.
You think so? I mean, I only have him right now like 10 or something. But
yeah, about right.
And then or you could then just go for the throat and just play Embiid or something like that. If you get away with that, I mean, then you're really in business.
What if I told you that 3 out of the last 6 games that what's his name, Vucevic absolutely torched Jokic in terms of production? I mean, you've got a 64, a 62, and a 74 in his last 6 games out of Vucevic. It's going to come down, honestly, to me, whether or not Fournier plays. Like, if Fournier doesn't play, I don't really know what else they do. And honestly, Jokic's numbers would be even better, but he just is never good on back-to-backs. And he would be lighting it up lately, but he's played too many back-to-backs. I'm sorry, not Jokic, Vucevic. Jokic on the back-to-back it's really hard to avoid him here for me. I think this is the priority play of you have to, if you're playing cash, I don't think that there is another way to build.
Well, hang on. Jokic on the back-to-back. Is he?
No, Vucevic on the back-to-back is who I meant.
Yes, but Jokic is on the back-to-back.
Yeah. Vucevic, I was saying Vucevic's numbers the production has been down a little bit because he's played a couple back-to-backs and he never plays as well on back-to-backs. That's what I was trying to say.
But what I'm saying is that if Jokic is going to be 30% owned, I mean, do we have to factor in that it's a back-to-back with him too? Or
Yeah, we do. But I'm just trying to go through his log real quick, just because I don't think that it's affected him too much so far this year. Yeah, 61 in his last back-to-back. Before that, he had 45. That was a tougher matchup, but yeah, I mean, he's and then another 152. It's the Wizards. I'm willing to take a shot. And also Washington, I mean, Denver still kind of is in that position where they kind of need to keep winning games. But yeah, I could see that as being an argument. I mean, look, we're looking for reason to fade Chuck. I already have a bunch of different ways to go on DraftKings.
You know the great news that I think I'm going to be able to play today, because I'm thinking about the timing of what I have to do today.
Yeah.
I'll probably be back, but maybe not for 6. Almost definitely not for 6. But I might not make it back for 7. But if I know I'm not going to play like Michael Carter Williams, for example.
Yep.
Or if I know that I am, one or the other. I could build lineups with nobody from the 7 p.m. game, and then still be able to be back in plenty of time to do what I need to do. You can't not play, or you have to figure out the Houston Philly game, right? So you can't like pass that one up, but I can toss the Orlando game if I had to. So that's good.
Yeah, I just want to say, I want to get my my last play in here for center here. I agree with Turner and everything, but I think Cousins is much more in play over here than he is on DraftKings. You get the unowned Gobert also. That's interesting. And then there's a thing I did, the exact same thing I did last night at my big buy-in on Fanduel, which didn't quite work, but it almost worked. Is play Robert Williams at 3,600. And I mean, it worked great for Robert Williams. Just the rest of my lineup wasn't good enough. But Robert Williams at 3,600 with Tristan Thompson on a back-to-back. Robert Williams could play more than 20 minutes. And if he plays more than 20 minutes, he's probably going to put up 25 plus fantasy points almost every time. And there is upside on that, as he put up 35 last night. So Robert Williams is just a completely lineup differentiator to try and throw in there at center. You get to double pair your studs at shooting guard and power forward if you do that, things like that. But you are giving up a lot, because there are, I expect Capella to be over 40 tonight and maybe in the 50s. I expect Jokic to be in the 60-ish range. I expect Vucevic to be over 45 or between 45 and 60 somewhere. There's going to be a lot of points scored here, so you'd have to really nail the other spots, but it is just an interesting way to go. And the one other guy who's way off the board seeming, I know it's weird and I know his minutes fluctuate, but he stands out a little bit, is if you're going to do the pay down thing, Kelly Olynyk. It's a long shot.
Wow, Kelly Olynyk on a 30-game slate.
I mean, he's 4,500.
Yeah.
Great matchup. It's the minutes fluctuate a little bit. Like, he didn't play much against the Clippers the other night because the Clippers didn't have any size, I guess. But he's pretty much, I think he scored 25 or more in the previous 6 games. So that's certainly worth it for getting different over here. Although I would rather probably take a shot with Robert Williams, and then keep an eye on the Steven Adams situation. If he's out, Hernan Gomez should essentially start. So he would become an awesome value play.
Yeah. So I'm you know what? It's gonna be another fun one, and it's gonna go right down to the end, right down to the last bit of Kawhi news at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, and then when the Jazz win by 37 points or something, and
then when the Jazz win by 37 points.
Hey, you laugh now, but the Clippers lost earlier at home this season, I think by 60, didn't they? Yeah, they were down by 50 at halftime. I remember that. It was 70.
But what I will tell you is that this slate is not over until the last Jimmy Butler possession at 1.
I like it. All right, guys. Hey, hopefully that was helpful. We'll see you at 6 Eastern. I don't think Sheets is going to be with me too, unfortunately, but look forward to getting with you then, and wish everybody luck tonight.